welcome to my channel. So last week I made a video talking about my week 1 overreactions, and one team that I talked about in that video was the Chicago Blackhawks. And with another week of the NHL season going by, I believe that it's time for me to do a video about the Chicago Blackhawks and where they are in their rebuild and how they've had a pretty good start to the season. They, at the beginning of the offseason, named a new head coach in Jeff Bashall. I do believe I'm saying that correctly. And the hiring was a little bit criticized for how he's managed some of his past teams, the Detroit Red Wings, and then being the assistant coach for the Tampa Bay Lightning. However, it looks to be like his system is working right now. And so I'm going to be going through some other topics in this video, talking about the culture of the team and talking about some star players. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting with the fact that they are looking a whole lot more happy this season. Bedard doesn't look like he wants to smash his stick over the boards every single time he gets off the ice, which is always a plus. The team is looking exciting with some of its young guys in Nazar and Renzel and a little bit of Colton Dach in there. And this team in my opinion, it's a complete 180 from what was last season's team. Because last season, it just looked like that no one was having fun. And so this year they have dabbled into the San Jose Sharks' happiness and are in turn way more united and way more on the same page. Because I remember I watched their game against St. Louis, and that game they won like 8-2, 8-3 or something like that. And in that game, there was no Nick Foligno. They were without their captain. And sometimes when a team is without their captain, they kind of crumble. However, the Chicago Blackhawks did not, and they basically gave the St. Louis Blues a good old pounding. So that is a great thing to see, that their whole pack mentality that I have talked about with the Montreal Canadiens seems to be relevant to the Chicago Blackhawks as well, because when they were playing the Montreal Canadiens, Frank Nazar got absolutely blown up by Caden Gooley, and Chicago was not going to let that fly. And they immediately got into a scrum, and everyone got a dance partner to fight with. So they are looking pretty good in the fact that they are being united. So that is one of the many things that I believe have changed about this team. Now, going on to a few more aspects of the on-ice stuff. They are currently, as of recording, sitting at a 3-2-2 record for 8 points. And they have played 7 games. And what I have noticed about the games that they have lost is that they've been close. Like the Boston game and the Panthers game, those were 1-goal differences. And with them being close, I mentioned in my overreactions video that they are looking very competitive. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that now Connor Bedard has been stabilized with a few consistent line mates, and he hasn't been necessarily left out there with like no chemistry at all with any of his guys. So I know that like with the whole rebuild thing, they're still very much in that rebuild. They're not gonna make the playoffs this season, in my opinion. However, I could be proven wrong, but I do believe that they're probably gonna be near the bottom, a little bit more improved. However, from the start of this season, it's looking like that rebuild is moving along quite fine. I know that last year people were questioning if the rebuild was even going to work, and so far they have proven that the rebuild has started to pay off a little bit. All right, so going into a few star players, or 3 players that I do believe have been playing pretty exceptionally well. That is Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, and then Ryan Donato. And Connor Bedard, I think a lot of people, the pressure is there. He's first overall pick. Last year wasn't the greatest last year and the year before. He's that plus minuses that are like, eek, that is tough. However, through 7 games, he has 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. So he's a point per game player and on pace for 82 points. And I think that if Bedard can continue with that pace, I think a lot of people are gonna kind of shut up about his play. And he's also looked faster this year, and he developed a little bit of a physical edge to his game and kind of a little bit of a rat personality. It's not big, but he has been like tapping the goalie's glove after the whistle, kind of not taking a lot of crap, and I think that that's one thing that if Connor Bedard can continue with not taking crap from anyone, that's only going to serve him. Because if we look back at McDavid and Crosby, they did not develop that edge as early as Bedard has seemingly developed it. And they kind of paid for it in the fact that they would get bullied a lot. And so with Connor Bedard developing this kind of resistance towards being pushed around, that's only going to serve him, and it's only going to make the Chicago Blackhawks even better. Now, going on to Frank Nazar, who he's been kind of out of the shadows, in my opinion, at least on my radar. I don't particularly watch a lot of Chicago Blackhawks hockey. However, with the game that they did have against the Panthers, my interest in the Blackhawks has been kind of piqued because of the fact that they're doing kind of good. And Nazar is definitely a part of that equation. He has 3 goals and 4 assists for 7 points. I got the Connor Bedard and Frank Nazar stats mixed up. Connor Bedard actually has 2 goals and 5 assists for 7 points. Little mistake on my part, but that's okay. We move on. Anyway, Nazar, he's looking like, if there's one thing that he has, it is speed. Throughout all of the games that I have watched of Chicago Blackhawks hockey, he is very potent in his offensive capabilities. And I mean, he is a forward, so that is kind of what he needs to do. However, he's been looking very strong and hasn't necessarily had a bunch of mistakes as a forward. So that's good for Frank Nazar. lastly, with Ryan Donato, he has 3 goals and 2 assists, good for 5 points in 7 games. He's a little bit on the older side. He is 29 years old. However, it is good to see that the more veteran guys or the older guys on this team have been playing well, because that will only encourage and help the younger guys play well. So those are the 3-star players that I think have been showing pretty well so far this season. Alright, so that's going to be the video. Thank you for watching. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to let YouTube know that you are liking these sort of videos and that it helps me with algorithm stuff. And lastly, make sure you comment below, what do you think of the Chicago Blackhawks? I really want to know what other people are thinking about this team right now, because I don't particularly know a lot of people in my real life that are Chicago fans, so it would be nice to know what the Chicago fans online think of this. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.